Good evening from the kitchen, folks. Today I'm going to have a go at making a cherry menthol and cinnamon cider. So here's the key ingredients. So let's go at the back and start with the star of the show, which has to be apple juice because it's a cider. This is apple juice from concentrate, 100%, and this is the turbo cider method. Then I've got a bit of water and a bit of brewing sugar. I've got 200 grams of brewing sugar just to up the ABV slightly. And then let's go down here. I've got some tea bags. These are Earl Grey tea bags. These are just to add a little bit of tannin. To get my cinnamon flavour in, I've got cinnamon sticks from Asda. To get a bit of cherry flavour in, I've got some MyProtein cherry flavoured Flavdrops. And to get my cherry mentholness in, well, I'm going to have some Jakeman's cough sweets. Now, this is an interesting one. I've never had Jakeman's before. I was looking for tunes, but nowhere seems to sell them anymore. What happened to tunes? Anyway, these seem to be okay, so I'm going to be using them. For my yeast, I'm going to go a little bit different and use Mad Millie's ginger beer yeast and yeast nutrient in that packet just there. Never tried it before, but I thought with it being a ginger beer one, it might help to give it a bit more of a fieriness. I'm going to add a little bit more yeast nutrient, which I've got down here. And I'll stick a bit of pectolase in just in case it clouds a bit. When I've added sweets into cider before, it has gone cloudy. So first things first, I'm going to make my tea. These are the Earl Grey tea bags. They're a bit posh, aren't they? Anyway, it doesn't matter how posh they are. One of them's actually split, so I've got 2 Earl Grey tea bags and a Yorkshire tea. Good old Yorkshire. And I'm going to add into my tea about just over half a litre of spring water. So then it's lid on, gas on, and heat on. I've just got to wait for that to come to a boil. And while I'm doing that, let's move on. So my fermentation vessel of choice today is the good old standard 1 gallon demijohn, and into that goes my apple juice. After all, this is the turbo cider method. Nice and labour saving. I'm just going to squeeze that in, and I've got another 3 litres after this one to go in. It holds 1 gallon, which is 4.54 litres. The rest of the liquid will be made up from the tea. Okay, I've got 3 litres in there. I'm going to save the 4th litre until I've put the tea in because I don't want to top it up too far and then not be able to get the flavours in there. So there's my apple juice. And the tea is now boiling, so I'm going to turn this right down. And I'm just going to leave this now to simmer for 2 minutes. So while the tea is simmering, I'm going to open the Jakeman's cherry menthol sweets. So why cherry menthol? I was inspired a little bit by the drink Aftershock. You remember that 80s cinnamony liqueur? It was a red colour. I kind of always felt in my mind it was like a menthol and cinnamon flavour. I don't know whether it actually was or not, but that's what in my mind I'm trying to recreate from this. So kind of like an Aftershock inspired cider. And obviously if I'm putting sweets in my cider, I've got to try one first, haven't I? I mean, quality control. Menthol. There they are. I've still got to unwrap them, but now it's time to take the tea bags out of the tea. Steamy. So I'm just going to get the tea bags out with a potato masher. There we go. And then with the back of another spoon, give them a press and squeeze all that flavour out. Anyway, so here's my cinnamon sticks. There's 3 in there. They don't really have a strong smell. I'm going to put 2 of them in. So there's the tea. 1, 2. Right, I'm just going to leave them in there to infuse. Now it's time to start unwrapping my sticky sweets and dropping them in. So everything is going to melt in the pan, apart from the cinnamon sticks. And that's all going to go into the demijohn. They're making a lovely cracking noise, these sweets, as they're beginning to expand with the heat. You can hear them every now and again going. And they will actually fracture and dissolve in the hot water. So it's probably a crazy idea, this. The yeast might not thank me for putting menthol in there, but do you know what? If you don't experiment, you never know. So I say avoid the boring, be interesting, do something different. Right, I can actually really smell a cinnamon and mentholness coming out of this, so that's a very good sign. The boiled sweets seem to be stuck quite a bit to the bottom of the pan. So I'm just going to try and move them around. So I just don't want them to burn on the bottom. But they will dissolve, that's definite. I'm going to put the lid on to help them do that. So while I'm waiting for the sweets to dissolve, I'm going to add some more bits into the demijohn. Here's some pectolase. I'm going to put a heaped teaspoonful in, and hopefully this will help it to be a clearer brew when it's finished. Besides the pectolase, I'm going to add a teaspoonful of this brewing yeast nutrient. It's a wine yeast nutrient from Poland. Again, nice teaspoonful of that. And last but not least for now, here's my MyProtein Flavdrops, the cherry flavour. I'm going to get a full pipette and squeeze that in. And you know what? Let's do another one for good luck. Now there's bits and bobs stuck in the funnel, but that doesn't matter because it will get washed through with the liquid very shortly. Okay, let's have a look. I can't believe how good that smells. It actually smells, it smells a bit like a German Christmas market. That's amazing. Right, I'm going to put my brewing sugar in here now because I want that to dissolve in there. So this is 200 grams of brewing sugar, and this is designed to raise the alcohol by volume in the final brew. It dissolves very quickly, and you can see the lovely pinkiness of that liquid. That's because of those cherry menthol sweets. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is done. I'm going to turn that off. And I'm going to leave this now for 15 minutes just to cool down a very little bit. Okay, 15 minutes has passed. I'm now going to add the liquid, the tea with the dissolved sweets and the cinnamon sticks and sugar into the demijohn. It is still hot, but it won't damage the demijohn. These are strong demijohns. I've had these since the 1970s. And also it's got apple juice in, which is going to protect the glass anyway. So in it goes. Just let that filter through. I've obviously got a cinnamon stick stuck in there. Okay, so here's the other cinnamon stick. I should just pop that one in. And this one, I shall also pop in. There we go. It does smell pretty wonderful actually. Right, let's get some more AJ in. Let me overfill my demijohn like I always do. Do you know why? I'm not scared. Okay, let's just give it a quick stir. It doesn't actually feel warm to touch. It just feels kind of a bit less than body temperature. Not much more than room temperature. Hydrometer tube. I obviously need to check the original gravity, or the starting gravity. So I'm going to pour some of this out of here, which won't go back in, but I will be sampling it. Okay, gives me a little bit more headspace, not very much granted, but I don't care. Okay, I'm going to pop this in the fridge for 20 minutes so it cools down for me to take the gravity. We'll get back to the brew in a sec. Okay, here's my Mad Millie's yeast. It says it ferments up to 5 litres of ginger beer. Well, let's see how it does with this flavoured cider. Here goes. And it's very sweet. It's not too cold. A little bit of warmth in it. I think this yeast is going to have a rather jolly time, providing the menthol doesn't kill it, and that's something I just don't know. Okay, I'm going to pop the blow-off pipe in, and then we'll have a progress update in a little while to see when fermentation starts. Welcome to the utility room, folks. Let's have a progress update. So this has now been in the demijohn for 30 minutes. You can see that there are the beginnings of a krausen beginning to form, so hopefully fermentation isn't going to be very long. The end of the blow-off pipe is going inside this flat bottom Firmzilla, which is currently full of water and sanitizer. I haven't noticed any bubbles coming up yet, and that's a pumpkin. Anyway, it's because it's nearly Halloween and I'm making this in time for Christmas, I'm thinking. Right, so let's take the original gravity. And this is on an original gravity of 1.076, 1076. So I'm keen to have a taste of this concoction. Let's see what it's like. Very sweet, very delicious, very cherry. The cherry comes through hugely. Cinnamon's not obvious, and neither is the menthol, so that'll be interesting to see what the end result is. Okay, so 3 hours later, but there's definitely a minor krausen. Fermentation has begun. I can see little bits and bobs floating up and down in there. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera or not, but I've also noticed the pipe, which is there in the flat bottom Firmzilla, releasing the odd bubble now and again, just like it did then. So it's not been a rapid starter, but it is going. And I'm going to leave it like this with the blow-off pipe for about 2 days, and that gets past the crazy stage hopefully, and then I'll probably put an airlock in. So the next film that you see from me will be when fermentation's over, and that will either be racking, bottling, or adding some extra flavours. Let's see what happens. See you later, folks. Good morning from the kitchen, folks. It's cherry and cinnamon turbo cider bottling day. Let's have a look at it. So bottling day, not opening day, because as you can see, it's pretty clear. It's not completely clear, but it will tidy up nicely in the bottles. Cinnamon sticks have sank to the bottom. They were floating on top. I basically put this outside for 24 hours where it's a lot cooler, and everything just sank. It's done a really nice job. So now is bottling day. I've got my bottles in the sink. I've got my sugar for priming, so it'll hopefully have a sparkle. So let's go. So in each of the bottles, I'm going to put a nice heaped teaspoonful of sugar. And the yeast, which is still in suspension within the cider, will eat the sugar. It will create a tiny fermentation, and a byproduct of that will be carbon dioxide, and that's what will give this a fizz, hopefully. So then it's bung out, siphoning tube in. I've got the tube held in place with this clip. The bottom of the tube is down just above the sediment line. The first bit that comes out will be murky and sedimenty, but that's going into the hydrometer flask. Let's do it. And I got a mouthful. It's slightly drier than I expected. I've definitely got cherry. I haven't got a strong cinnamon, but it's there. It's there, but it's not strong. The mentholness, not as apparent. I might be able to do something about that though. Let's see. And there we go. Bubbles in the siphoning tube. Tell me this is over. I think I'll just be able to fill this 500 up from what's in the tube. Okay, here's what I've ended up with. I've got 5 750s and I've got a 500, which is not quite full, but I can top it up with what's in the hydrometer jar. So it's time to take the final gravity. Here we go. Plop, now it's sank nicely. And I'm on a final gravity of 1.000. Okay, so I need to work out the final alcohol by volume for this brew. So I take the original gravity of 1.076. I deduct from that the final gravity of 1.000, which equals 0.076. And then I multiply this by 131.25, and that equals 9.975%. I think after the little tiny bit of fermentation that's going to take place in the bottle, we can say 10%. Rocket fuel. Okay, so I've topped the bottles up, and here's my master plan to add a bit more menthol flavour. Ka-ching. So I'm just going to put the whole soothers into this. These are just plain menthol flavour, not cherry. I don't need to add any more cherryness to it, they seem okay for that. I'll put one more in, that's 6. Okay. So this is a pampered chef. I call it a whacker smacker. I don't know what it's actually called. And it goes a little something like this. Hit it! Oh, I can smell the menthol, that's for sure. And there's the net result. Breaking Bad. It's proper like a drugs lab now, isn't it? Okay, I'm just going to crown cap the small bottle before I move on to putting the bungs on the bigger bottles. So 1 down, 5 to go. Okay, I'm just going to put the bungs in the bottles. I've had the bungs softening in hot water just to make them a bit more malleable, which can help. And they all went in without dramas, which is nice, doesn't happen very often. Now I'm going to add cages to hold the bungs in place, because when that secondary fermentation kicks in the bottle to create the sparkle, it'll create pressure, and without the cages, the bungs become missiles. Right, 1 down, 4 to go. You don't need to watch that, it's not that exciting. So that's all bottles now, bunged and caged and capped in this case. I'm just giving them a rinse to get any sticky off the outside, because I need to label them. I've got my labels made up in a simple Microsoft Word template. I'm just going to print these out. So I'm just going to label my bottles. I like to take a little bit of pride in their appearance. Try and do it as neatly and evenly as possible. And these labels just float off in water afterwards, which makes them quite good to use. And there we go. Hey folks, this is where my cherry menthol and cinnamon cider is going to condition. So it's going on these shelves down here, as you can see. Okay, these are temperature control shelves. That's a thermometer, that's a thermostat plug. When the temperature drops below 19.5, the plug activates and turns on that heater, When it gets to 20.5, it switches off and it's now on 20.6, so it's off. And this will keep everything on the shelves at a constant temperature to condition them. So that's where they're going to stay for the next month. So the next film that you see from me will be opening and tasting in a month's time. Catch you then, folks. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It's my cherry menthol and cinnamon cider grand opening night. Well, it's been in the bottle for 6 weeks. I've got absolutely no idea how this is going to turn out. I've done a couple of odd experimental ones of late, which have not turned out to be as great as I'd hoped. And this is probably up there in that category also. So I don't have very high hopes for it. I mean, it'd be nice if it's got a sparkle. It'd be nice if it looks good in the glass. It'd be nice if it smells nice. And obviously, if it tastes nice. I'm not expecting the flavours to come through very much, if I'm quite honest with you. But let's see what happens. So this is a 10% ABV cider, which is technically a wine, really. I just don't know. I really don't know where this is going to be on the scale. Let's hope it's not gross. That's always a result, isn't it? Right, am I going to get any sort of a pop? Slightly pathetic, but there is a bit of vapour coming out of the top of the bottle. I don't know if you can still see it. And there's definite bubbles at the top. Let's see. Oh, it's an undeniable sparkle. Whew. Yes. Okay. You can appreciate that that is a sparkler. Now, smell-wise, it just smells like apple cider. I'm not getting anything else through at all in the smell. Okay. That's not bad. The cherry is definitely there. And then you get this interesting after effect with the menthol. It sort of like envelops your tongue. It just sort of like goes around afterwards. Now, if you'd given me this blind and said to me, what is it? I wouldn't have guessed cherry menthol. I could have guessed cherry possibly, but definitely not menthol. Now, the cinnamon isn't apparent whatsoever. I can't taste the cinnamon at all. But as far as drinkability goes, it's actually quite nice. It's somewhere in between a medium and a medium dry. It's on that part of the scale. It's a very drinkable cider. It doesn't taste like 10%. It tastes like 6%. Yeah, I must say, it's not a bad drink actually. Now, if I was going to make this again, what would I do differently? The cinnamon, I'd probably try and find some artificial flavouring because the stick just hasn't done anything. And if I was going to put the cherry menthol sweets in again, the cough sweets, I'd put a lot more of them. Even though there were quite a lot went in, the menthol is so delicate that if you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't know it was there. Anyway, I'm going to enjoy this tonight. Let's hope it clears my nose and soothes my throat. Right, cheers folks. It's been a pleasure as always, learning curve as always, and I'm learning by brewing, learning by doing. I'll catch you on the next brew. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in www.mosstravel.tv Again, if you could subscribe to that channel, it would be hugely appreciated. If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is StuMoss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.